Chapter 53, Part 1. The moment I handed Mrs. Douglas my story on coming to America was also the moment I decided I had to enter the essay competition. I was ready. I could do this. There was still the tricky issue of $300 entry fee. I've been so preoccupied with finding out who stole the missing car, I hadn't been putting out my tip jar. When I went home and fished out the entry form, panic filled my lungs. The deadline was in less than a week. There was no way I could get $300 in tips in that time. Asking my parents for money was out. It was the holiday season. You'd think the holiday season would be a busy time for motels, but surprisingly, it's not. Folks would rather stuff themselves inside a tiny closet than have to stay in a motel over the holidays. So I couldn't ask my parents. That left only one option. My eyes slid down to the bag underneath my parents' bureau, the lucky pennies. I know they weren't my lucky pennies, they were our lucky pennies. I thought about the look on my dad's face whenever we found one of the rare ones. Like Christmas morning, he was so proud of them. I knew if I told him that he'd never let me sell them. He was always talking about how much they'd be worth one day, how they'd appreciate in value over time. He'd never let me do it. He'd kill himself scraping together the $300 some other way, probably by skipping meals and not buying my mom a Christmas present. And that I couldn't let him do. Not after everything they'd been through this year. So I took the bag of special pennies and headed over to Hank's. Hank looked down at the bag. "Are you sure about this?" Hank asked. "I'm positive," I said to him. I explained to him why I needed the money. Hank nodded and agreed to go downtown first thing tomorrow before his shift. I gave him the address of a street in downtown LA where he traded rare and valuable coins and stamps. I'd look it up in the library. Before I handed them over, I took one last look at the pennies. I held them to my cheek and kissed them goodbye. "I'm going to miss you guys," I whispered. The next day, Hank returned with $312. I sucked in a breath as he handed me the crisp bills. "Here you are," he said when he handed me the last of the bills. "Now go win a motel." "I will," I said with a grin. Our luck was going to change soon. I could feel it in my bones. As the honeycomb sun dipped into the sky, I sat, hunched over at the front desk, and wrote my story.